Just before Abraham's last and most famous test, when God tells him to sacrifice his son, he faces another, less well-known test. When his wife, Sarah, tells him that he has to banish his eldest son, Yishmael, and Yishmael's mother, Hagar, Abraham's second wife. Abraham, the paradigm of kindness, does not want to do this, but God tells him that he has to listen to his wife, Sarah. And so he sends Hagar and Yishmael on their way, giving them provisions for their journey. But Yishmael unexpectedly takes ill, consumes too many of the provisions, and they're finished, and his life is forfeit. He is on the verge of death, and his mother Hagar does something so stunning, so seemingly callous and cruel and selfish that it's tough to even read the passages, let alone understand them. She tosses him under a bush and then walks a distance away, saying, "I don't want to see the boy die." Now, what kind of mother does that? Wouldn't any mother with her son on his deathbed be right there with him, next to him, comforting him, wiping his brow, whispering soothing words into his ear, saying last goodbyes, rather than casting him away and abandoning him? And how is it possible that none of Abraham's legendary kindness rubbed off on Hagar during all those years that she was his maidservant and then his wife? And even more curious, she's not just his one-time wife. Hagar is Abraham's once and future wife, because in next week's Torah portion, after Sarah dies, Isaac, Yitzchak, goes and finds Hagar, brings her back, and she remarries Abraham. And this time she has a new name. Her name is Keturah. And our sages tell us that the reason for that name is that her actions were as pleasing as the ketores, the incense used in the holy temple. That's the same woman who cast off and abandoned her son because she couldn't bear to see him die. It doesn't seem to make sense, unless, perhaps, all of this was by design. Maybe Hagar had learned her lessons well from those years that she spent in the home of Abraham and Sarah. Maybe she learned the power of prayer coupled with sincere repentance. And maybe she realized that there was nothing she could do at this point, cry as she might, for her son. His only chance would be for him to cry out sincerely, with proper and intense remorse and regret to his Father in heaven. And so maybe she was pretending to abandon him, casting him under the tree, saying loud enough for him to hear, "I don't want to see you die," making him feel all alone and helpless so that he'd cry out, real tears. And if that was her ploy, it certainly worked, because boy did he cry. Real tears, tears that went up and rattled the gates of heaven, tears coupled with sincere repentance, tears that caused God to listen, to answer Yishmael, to send an angel down to save his life. And so maybe what Hagar was doing was overcoming her natural tendencies of mercy, her maternal tendencies, all for the greater good, to try to save her son, presaging exactly what Abraham is going to do in the next scene during his test, when he has to overcome his natural mercy when God tells him to sacrifice Isaac. And so maybe the Torah is hiding this message here in order to tell us we're not going to be asked to sacrifice our sons because none of us could handle that test. But we are going to be asked to make sacrifices. There will be times, time and again, when we will be asked to overcome our natural tendencies or our temptations or desires for the greater good in order to serve God. And when we do that and we succeed, we can, in a sense, bind God's arms up in heaven, implying a prayer to him, saying, "God, I know I'm not perfect. I know I may have strayed or sinned, but look what I just did. I just overcame my natural desires, my temptations for you. And so I ask you, when it comes time to analyze my deeds or misdeeds, instead of applying what might be your natural tendency of your attribute of judgment, your iron fist, instead I'm asking you to cover it up with a glove of silk and instead save me."